Good evening, everybody. Thank you all for being here, and it is my privilege to welcome Mr. Yavor Rusinov, the author of our newest publication in Afrikaans, Ewige Beginsels, and in English, Timeless Principles. Yavor, it's a privilege to welcome you on our program tonight.
Good evening. It's a privilege for me being your guest. Thank you for the invitation.
Great. Yavor, let's start. I know there's a lot of people who have this question in mind. They want to know, who is Yavor Rusinov? Why should we listen to what Yavor Rusinov has to tell us?
It's a good question. Okay, well, obviously, my name is Yavor Rusinov. Me and my family were from Bulgaria. I'm married for my better half. and more beautiful half. So both of us, we are in the area of education, and for the last few years we're dealing with education, and especially in the area of challenging people thinking and a worldview. So we try to give them those timeless principles for life.
Okay. I just want to invite our audience as well to leave us some comments in the comment section. If you are watching on Facebook, you're welcome to leave your comment there. If you're watching on our YouTube channel, you're also welcome to comment there. Hopefully, we'll be able to see your comments. And if you have a question, you can post it in English. And if we have time, I will show your question on screen, and maybe Yavor we'll have some time to answer your questions. So please feel free to comment and to ask some questions. Yavor, let's start with this publication. And we are so glad that we had the privilege here at Duisternis Uitgewers to do the publication and to do it in Afrikaans. But what inspired you to write Timeless Principles?
Well, it happened a few years ago, actually 17 years ago. So when our oldest son was born, I started asking myself, okay, what are those factors making some people to succeed in this life? And suddenly, I pop up on something which is really changed my thinking. And in the very beginning, I invited a few of my friends just to talk about that in front of them. Even I remember that I invited two of my friends from Sofia, that's the capital of Bulgaria, and they came with a camera and they filmed that conference. And when I finished, they said, "Wow, if we only knew what you told us, we would bring the better camera." But anyway, so they delivered the maybe the earliest version of the book, but on a CD. So actually, they sold a few CDs, from the principles in the very early stage. But my interest was, okay, what were the factors that made one people to succeed in this life, others not, and how can I give them to my kids?
All right. But what makes your book unique? I mean, that certainly is a question that's running through everybody's minds at the moment. There's a lot of books with parenting advice available. Why should people buy and read yours?
Well, you're right. There are plenty of books concerning the parenting, but what makes my unique is that actually I'm not dealing on the surface of the parenting. I'm not telling the parenting, okay, to the parents, do this or don't do this, and etc. But I'm trying to give them the presumptions, the right presumptions of how the world is working, how they should start thinking, how their kids should start thinking. And this is the most important thing. Our world view is the most important thing, because you see, even the educational systems, even the parents, they focus on the facts, they focus on the knowledge, but the knowledge and the facts, they do not just stay for themselves. Somebody need to interpret them, and every one of us interpret the reality around us, and we interpret that reality according to the presumptions that we have. So the book actually gives the presumptions how to interpret that reality around us.
You are saying an interesting thing at the moment. You want to learn your children how to think and think
Yes.
for themselves. Why is that important? If you can maybe just elaborate on that a little bit, because I think we live in an era where we are so focused at training our kids a certain way, and to behave a certain way, and to speak a certain way, and to think a certain way, that they critical thinking is not something that is part and parcel of who they are, and I think it's a drawback in our time. What do you think?
Well, everyone talks about critical thinking, right? Even the public schools. It's a something modern. It's a something. It's not only modern. Actually, we need it. We need a critical thinking. But what is a critical thinking, right? So in order to think critically, you need a certain standards. And if you don't have the standards, you don't have a critical thinking. You just repeat the propaganda, you repeat the common opinions, you repeat the opinions of your friends, and etc. But we have critical thinking only when we have a certain eternal standards. And actually, I build the critical thinkings on those 5 standards that I gave in the book. And this is the freedom, this is the responsibility, this is the ethics, the cause and effect relationship, and the time. If we have the right knowledge on this presumption, or if we have the right presumptions, only then we can have the right critical thinking. So only then we are able to evaluate what is wrong and what is right.
Okay. Yeah. So let's move on to the popularity of the book. I think the book is well received in Eastern Europe, if I'm correct. The book was originally written in Bulgarian, but has since been translated into English, as far as I know, and now into Afrikaans. Are there any other translations available, and how many copies have you sold so far?
Well, in Bulgaria, there are around 20,000 copies, which is a big deal for me because when I started writing the book, it was my only dream was if I can sell at least 1,000 copies. That was my biggest mistake, because Bulgaria is a small market, and that was my biggest dream. But actually, we were able to sell roughly about 20,000 copies. So then we translated the book into English, and then it came to you. So I couldn't say, I don't know, frankly speaking, if it is translated to any other languages. I have 1 or 2 requirements for translation, but they were not done in the right way, just like you did it. So I didn't give the permission for that.
All right.
Yeah.
But I hope they will follow some more translations, because I must admit that this book was really an eye-opener. It resonated well with me, and especially with my background as a Christian minister and a Reformed minister. I know you yourself is from a Reformed background, and that's probably why it resonated with me. But let's take our first question here. What principle do you think parents struggle with the most today, and why? This question is from Wilmarie Brits.
Well, it's a good question. So, what principle do I think parents struggle most with today? So, well, uh, I think that as a parents, we struggling a lot with the cost and effect relationship, because we as a parents, we're trying to give our best to our kids, right? We're doing the right things, and we don't see the immediate results. We get desperate and we start thinking, oh, this is not working. But what I can encourage all the parents, just do what is right, because we don't fully understand the cause and effect relationship. We don't understand how our deeds actually change the reality, change your kids. You don't understand which of your words or small deeds towards them will touch your kids and will change them, because sometimes it takes years. Just keep doing what is right, and sooner or later you will see the result. Just don't get desperate.
Okay, but just to follow up on that, um, what are some of the common parenting mistakes or challenges that you address in the book? Because I think all of us, we admit that we do make mistakes at times, but what is the most common ones and the most important ones that we should be on the lookout for?
Well, maybe one of them is that we require full submission from our kids. This is maybe not from all the parents, but most of those parents, when they are really interested in their kids, they want a full submission. If I say something, you have to do it. But I found out that this is not a good thing, because, for instance, even in the book, I compare how the Chinese, they raise their kids, how the Jews raise their kids, and we can see that actually the Chinese, they require a full submission, no back talk from the kids, and we see the results. They have a great engineers, but they don't have a great breakthroughs in the innovation and etc. But if you go to the Jews, they allow their kids to talk back. Of course, talking back should be in a proper way, right?
Mm.
But just give some freedom to your kids, and don't ask for a full submission if it's not required, of course, in a certain cases.
That was a very interesting part of the book for me as well, and I found it very interesting the way the Jews uh, teach their kids to not just to take everything at face value, but to question everything in a proper way. So yeah, I would really admit that that was an eye opener for me. I just want to quickly remind our guests and all our viewers that you can buy this book on www.ligenduisternis.co.za on our online shop. It's also available as an ebook on Amazon.com. So if you are interested in the ebook, you can just go on Amazon and you can grab it there. Then I have two more questions before we move on. Maybe we should take them first, Yavor. The one is from a 15-year-old boy. I'm 15-year-old boy. Do you think this book is important for me to read now, or should I wait until I also become a parent?
It's a great question. Well, I rare receive such questions from boys or girls at their age, from teenagers, because usually the teenagers at that age, they do not read, unfortunately. But let me answer straight. You must read that book immediately and don't wait to become a parent. Even I'll tell you something interesting. Actually, I target the parents, right? But it was very funny that here in Bulgaria, actually, the business companies, they answer to the books in a very great way. So one evening, I still remember that moment, I received an order by email for 60 books. So I call on the next day on the guy who sent me the email. I said, okay, excuse me, isn't it a mistake? Probably you don't, it's not 60, you mean 6. He said, no, I'm the director of the company that is dealing with the logistic of the international airport, and I want to give a copy to all our workers. So many other companies actually they call me and they order books for their workers, and that's why I think to that questions, you should read the book as soon as possible, because the book is not for parents. Actually, the book is for everyone.
Okay, so there you have it, young boy. If you have the chance, grab the book, read it, start reading. So I'm glad to tell you that we also had a company already ordering 30 books. So of the Afrikaans version. So we are very fortunate for that. Right, the questions are coming in now. So let's focus on them first. I have one here from Michelle. How do you define success in the context of raising children? And how does it differ from societal standards?
I was afraid they would ask me that question. Okay, that's a good question. Okay, how do I define success? Okay. So I define success in raising the children in that if the child is actually able to discern good from wrong, right? If he's able to recover himself from failure, and he is able to find his mission here on this earth, trying to answer the question, what am I doing here, right? If I can do that with my kids, and I think that actually we are approaching to that moment. That's my definition for success raising children. Okay. If you make them responsible, if you make a responsible children, if you make an ethical children, if you make children who have skills to serve the others, you will make a great favor of them, because there is a principle that those who serve others, they lead others. And we can see that in the big companies. We can see that in Apple. We can see that in Microsoft. So, right, they didn't come us pointing a weapon and saying, buy my product. No, they are serving us. And this is, if we can raise responsible kids, I think that we have succeeded.
Okay. Yeah. And I think it's a topic that we can discuss even further. And it's quite a philosophical thing as well. How do you define success? But what I understand from you is to give them the right tools to become successful by themselves based on certain principles that you set out in the book. Right. The next question is one about the availability of the book. Will this book be available on print on demand? Yes, of course, it will be available on print on demand. It's not only available on Amazon as an ebook, it's also available as in the form of print on demand. So those of you who don't know how print on demand works, it's an easy way for you if you are, say, for example, staying in South Africa and you want it to send it as a gift to family in Canada. You can just order it on Amazon Canada, and they will print it over there in Canada, and they will just send it to the family over there. And it's much more cost effective for everybody. And hopefully this book get distributed all over the world in this way. Thank you for the question, Melanie, and reminding me about this. Then the next question we received from Adrian Bester. In a secular world with secular media and a secular school system, what can we do to counter the secular influence on our children in our homes as Christian parents?
That's a good question.
Tough one.
It's a very good question. Well, we can do two things. So the first thing is draw out the kids from the from the schools, which is not possible, of course, everywhere. So let's forget about that. But the second thing is, okay, what we are doing in our home. Every Saturday, so we're trying to gather all the family around the table. So my wife, she prepare nice food. So we light the candles. So we play a nice music. We turn off the screens of phones and TVs and everything, and we start talking. And very often we bring the topic that usually parents are trying to save from the kids, thinking that they protect them in this way, but they don't realize that once the kids go to the public school, somebody will influence them. So I think it's that we have to be quicker, and that's where we start talking and discussing topics that are usually, a problem in the schools. I'll give an example. Right now here in Bulgaria, we have a very big political chaos. So every 6 months we have elections. And probably 3 weeks ago, we were walking with my family and my sons in the street, and you can see all the political parties trying to persuade people to vote for them. So I saw a party which I don't like, but my oldest son, he's talking back, he's trying to argue with me. He went, and I know that he liked one of the parties that I don't like. And do you know what I did? So I went straight to that party. I picked up one of their newspapers, their materials, and we went back home because I wanted to read and to discuss the topics together. And so my advice to that question, if you have kids that are visiting public school with, secular system, when they come back, try to talk to the kids, try to speak all those topics. Otherwise, there will be in the public schools.
Yeah. We must grab hold of every opportunity we have to prepare them and to give them the right tools.
But you see, many of the parents, they say, "Oh, this is a nasty topic," right?
Yeah.
So I will not mention anything, but it's nasty. Let's preserve the kid. They don't preserve the kid. You see, we don't live in a vacuum. Kids sooner or later will face that topic, and then it will be bad. It will don't have the tools how to react. That's why we need to discuss that in the family, and to give and to arm the children with the proper thinking, proper tools how to challenge all these topics.
Exactly, and in order to do that, you have to teach them how the enemy is thinking, how the other party is thinking. What is behind? What is their premises? Where do they come from? What is their worldview? How do you expose it? How do you see it for what it is, so that you can react to that?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I have another question here from Marichem. Will you be able to give your children the right tools later in life if you don't start teaching them from birth? Could you be too late?
Well, it depends. I don't think that it could be too late. You can. We have an opportunity to start where we are. It doesn't matter how old are you. You always can start from that from the place where you are. So maybe, of course, the approach is different. If you have a child who is 2 years old, you have one approach to him. If you have a teenager, and right now you have the tools somehow, and you're trying to do something with this teenager, you have to use a different approach, right? But it's never too late. So if you have the possibility, we have to grab it, and we have to, to push forward and trying to change the reality around us.
Yeah. Don't tell yourself it's water under the bridge. I can't do anything about this. It's never too late. I do agree with you. Even if only your grandchildren benefit from it, then it's also worth the while to start. Okay.
Sure.
I just want to come back to the popularity of the book in Bulgaria and in Eastern Europe. How did your background in Eastern Europe and your being exposed to communism and socialism and so on, how did that influence your thinking in writing this book? And do you think that maybe that is one of the reasons why Eastern European people find this book so fascinating and interesting?
Well, I was a kid when the communism fell down, but I still remember very clearly what happened at that time. So, but there is a paradox and an irony right now here in Bulgaria that the young people who are, I don't know, 20, 25 years old, they think that the communism or the socialism was a great time because the propaganda is working all the time, So everything was free, so everything was cheap, and etc., etc. Yeah, they just don't realize that actually it wasn't free, it wasn't cheap, and you have no freedom. You have no freedom. So, and that's the biggest danger right now here in Bulgaria or in Eastern Europe, and I think that's everywhere in the world, because the propaganda is working and it's lurking the young minds that the communism or the socialism is something so great, and it's a terrible, it's a disaster. So we have to challenge these ideas everywhere where we go. That's why, again, we're coming back to the presumptions. You see, we got a problem. We don't have a problem with the facts. We have problems with the presumptions, with the ideas, because the ideas always have consequences. Yes. And that's why we have to challenge the presumptions of the people, and this is what the book actually do.
Yeah, it does, and it focuses a lot on what your worldview is and how do you approach everything with a certain worldview, and maybe you can elaborate a bit on the importance of worldview.
Yeah. Well, I think that the worldview is the most important thing that we have in this life, because the worldview actually the worldview is like the operating system of the computer. So every one of us has a computer or a smartphone, right? So everyone use apps or certain software on the computer, but what we don't see actually is the operating system. So this operating system is like the presumptions that we have. So if we try to install a software that is not complying with the operating system, it will just crash down. So every idea that is coming to us, every fact that is coming to us, and it's not according to the presumptions that we have or the worldview that we have, actually just crash and fall down. It could be true, but you just crash and fall down. So the worldview is the most important thing. And the worldview consists of our presumptions. So I can give 5 presumptions, actually, that build our worldview. So the first presumption is the freedom. So actually, the book is built on the worldview. This is what the book is trying to give to the people: a new worldview, a new way of thinking. So the first one is freedom. The second one is responsibility. The third one is the ethics. The fourth presumption is the cost and effect relationship. And the fifth one is the time. So, the saying or the Bible verse which says that the just will live by faith, right? So tell me how the wicked lived. They lived by faith again. Everyone on this earth lived by faith. Even the scientist, when he goes in his lab doing a science, actually he stepped on a presumptions, he stepped on a faith, and then he start doing science. Actually, the science is not possible if you don't have the right presumptions.
Okay, but I want to counter now, and I think maybe our audience may have this question. How do you stay objective? You say you have 5 principles that guides your worldview. What is to say that your 5 principles are objective principles? Why should I listen to these principles? Why are they timeless in a sense?
Well, they're timeless. First, okay. I have one certain tester, if I can express myself in this way. So tell me if your principles can build a civilization from the zero. So let's take the Puritans, or look at the West, the rich West that we have right now. So until the 16th centuries, that rich West was it wasn't rich. It was just a whole nothing. And something happened in the 16th century, which actually caused a revolution. Suddenly, these people start doing science, right? The Puritans going into to the New England, going to America, they made the greatest nations in the earth. How they did it? They used the right presumptions. And on the other side, if you have the wrong presumption, if you can see the North Korea, you can see so many countries in the world that actually when you don't have the freedom, for examples, right? You have disasters. People are poor. Everything is regulated by the government. Just look at the North Korea. So you can have only a special haircut approved by the government. And that is disaster. But I'll give you a secret. Do you know what I followed? I followed the principles of the God's covenant writing the book. So actually the God's covenant is built on these 5 presumptions. That's why they're
yeah, that's where I wanted to get to. So at the end we can come to the conclusion that these principles are not sucked out of thin air.
No,
they came from somewhere.
Yep.
From an objective place, the Bible and the covenant, and therefore they are timeless. Yeah. Okay. But now I want to move on a bit and follow up with a question about the worldview, because a lot of our children, especially in South Africa, they are exposed to a government school system and so on. And in his recommendation for this book, Professor Panchev warns readers about the effect of this book's content. He says that he doesn't know how anybody will be able to expose their children to government-run educational programs or public schools after reading this book. Why this warning? Is it something South Africans should also take to heart, given our government's strong ties to communism and the strong socialistic agenda?
Well, probably but the public school, it was created in Prussia. That was Germany in the past, and it was created for a certain purpose. So people, they do not behave well. They were not submissive to the king who ruled, or to the emperor who ruled the Prussia. So that's why they invented the public school. So actually the main agenda was how to indoctrinate the children to serve and to be loyal to the government. And I'm afraid that this agenda still continue. So maybe the agenda maybe is not so well aware right now, but just because of the mainstream, because of the chaos or lack of certain principles of good and right and the right presumptions, those kids they just been raised in that chaos. And so maybe that's why Panchev says that you should be careful with the public schools, because they have a special agenda for that.
Okay. But is it as simple as having to make a choice between a public school and a private school, for example? Because in South Africa, we have public government-run schools, and then we have private schools, but we also have different kinds of private schools. We have secular kind of private schools that also has the same curriculum as government-run schools, but then you also have more Christian-based private schools. What principles should guide parents in their choice for a school if they have to choose a school for their children?
Well, first, private school is not a guarantee for, or it's not equal of quality education, right? So, for instance, here in Bulgaria, we got lots of private schools, but they are private just on the paper, because you cannot have a private school here in Bulgaria if you don't follow the government agenda, government curriculum. So actually, there is no difference. Yeah, maybe it's more intensive or etc. But the presumptions and the principles are the same. So it doesn't matter if it's private or it's public. So what could the parents do? So I'm afraid they cannot do anything. They only can talk to their kids in their homes, or they can try to find alternative education like the Christian schools or homeschooling, which is very popular right now in the States. Yeah, but I'm afraid that they cannot do something bigger in the public or the private secular schools. You just don't have to work.
Interesting comment here from Marizan. She stays in Canada, and she says in Canada, even the Christian schools still use the government curriculum, which makes no sense. Do you want to comment on that?
It makes a great sense, actually. Yeah, that's sad. That's sad. That's really sad. But you see, so again, if we come back again and follow the God's covenant, so we always have on the top who is the supreme in the society, right? The government, the Pharaoh, the Caesar, or God, and his laws. So we don't live in a vacuum, and it's right now. If you want to have a church, if you want to have a Christian school, the irony is actually you have to receive approval from the government to have it. Even if you want to have a Christian school, it should be approved by the government, which is ridiculous. But I can tell you something very interesting in this case, and I think that here the Christians, this is the fault of the Christian, not of the government. So right after the revolution in America, one of the French politicians, Alexandre de Tocqueville, he went to America and started searching he wants to make a great research why the American Revolution succeed, bringing happiness, bringing wealth to the people, and why the French Revolution, for example, brought death and blood and etc. And he found very, very interesting things. One of the things that he found there is that Americans when they got problems, when they sick people in their societies, in their families, when they have poor people in their families, they gather together in the neighborhoods. They organize themselves in organizations, the so-called churches, and they exercise full responsibility of all those people there, right? And they don't allow the government to take the initiative and to serve their people, to serve their weak people, right? Mm-hmm. They educate their kids. They pay to their weak people. They try to do everything by themselves, but not to allow the government to take responsibility and take care for their people. And do you know why? Because there is a principle. And the principle is that if you serve, you lead. And that's principle. It has consequences. Once the government starts serving you, sooner or later, it will take your freedom. And that's now, we don't have freedom, or the freedom is taken step by step, even in the Christian schools, on the regulation, etc. That's because the people refuse to exercise responsibility.
Yeah, we gave the responsibility we should have taken on ourselves. We gave it to the government.
Yes, and we gave it to the government.
Against us. Yes.
Yeah, we have a free people. We have a weak people. Okay, we should give it to the government. We will give our kids to the government because we want to be free, because we want to, have a fun and etc. That's why the government will take the responsibility and our freedom, and we will start leading.
Yeah,
we don't have we don't follow the principles.
Yeah, so we should maybe go back to the Bible and just educate ourselves again on what our primary responsibilities as parents is, and take the responsibility for that and for our kids and for their education. I want to move on to some of our final questions. Which principle in the book do you personally find the most meaningful, and why?
Well, I think the most important one, or the combination of all the principles, this is the ethical principle. Because everything is connected. So if you're not ethical, right, you're not responsible. But if you're not responsible, then you lose your freedom. Okay, so that's why the ethics should be on the first place. But the principle that I admire a lot is the cause and effect relationship, because I really want to understand what my deeds will cause, what is the cause and effect relationships in this world. We just don't realize it. Okay, let me give you a few examples. Do we have enough time?
Yes, you can go on.
Okay, good. So, I'll give you a very interesting example. Okay, so in the 1934, I think, but just around that time, Joseph Unwin, he was a scientist in Oxford and Cambridge in England, and he did a great research on trying to find what is the cause and effect relationship between the ethics and the freedom. So, and more specifically, between the sexual connections without outside of the norms, outside of the boundaries, right, and the ethical boundaries, and the freedom. He made that research among 6 nations and 80 tribes, and he found out that just all those he found out that actually all those people, nations and tribes, who actually kick away the ethics and going into those sexual relationships, soon or later they become slaves to the other nations. And he wrote a 700 pages book on that topic. But something else, in the 60s, 1960s, one of the top KGB agents in Russia, Yuri Bezmenov, he found out that actually KGB is preparing his assassination. So he ran away in Canada and started giving interviews for the American and Canadian journalists. And he said something astonishing. He said that KGB had a plan how to conquer America. And he gave a 4-steps plan. He said, if you want to conquer a nation, a family, an institution, the first step is demoralization. You see, KGB understand much better from the contemporary Christians what is the cause and effect relationship. And he said, okay, once you demoralize the people, then come crisis. Then come crisis in the family, come crisis in the universities, in the schools, in the nations. And once the crisis came, then we're coming, and we liberating you. Yeah, right. So, but we don't see this cause and effect relationship today. We think it's something old, something, old traditions.
Exactly. Yeah, but it's like a law of nature. I mean, cause and effect is always there, and even in science, that is something that came up regularly and influenced us a lot. And I think that is something that we really should take into account. And the Bible also teaches us that for everything we do, there is an effect. And we must consider that effect, even when we raise our children. What we do now will have an effect on the long term. Okay.
Sure.
Yavor, we're getting to the end of our interview now, and I just want to close. I see I have another question here. Maybe I can just quickly show you. What would you suggest as the alternative for public school teaching? I think you have answered the question a while back, but maybe you can just quickly remind our viewers what your suggestions are.
Well, one of them is homeschooling, and the other one is if the parents have a control over the school, that's an option.
So that's an important one, hey? So the parents should have control over the school.
Yes.
And now in South Africa, we have a huge fight with the government, with new legislation that they want to implement, where they just want to do exactly this. They want to take away parents' control over these schools and these school systems. So it's a very important thing that we must take note of. And thank you for reminding us.
Yeah, take back your responsibility.
Okay, Yavor, I want to close. Given the fast-paced changes in today's world and everything changing every now and then, do you believe the relevance of these principles will ever be questioned? And if so, why? And if not, why not?
Well, these principles, they've been valid 2,000 years ago. They're valid now. So there is a big difference for these 2,000 years. And I'm pretty sure they will be valid in 2,000 years later, because we live in a world that is structured according to these principles. As you said, they are not sucked out of the thin air. So we're just like scientists, right? We're trying to discover the laws that are already in the nature or in the world around us, and trying to implement them in our life. So until we're on this earth, and until there are humans on this earth, this principle will be valid because we live in these principles. Even you see, even the okay, I know for two famous dystopians, 1984 and Brave New World. So they're on a different spectrum, on the opposite spectrum, but both of these dystopians, they're dealing with what? Freedom.
Yeah.
These dystopians are, they depict a society that is, I don't know, whatever, it's many thousand years ahead. But again, both of them, they discuss freedom, they discuss responsibility, they discuss the ethics. We can see the cause and effect relationships, and we can see the time.
Yavor, thank you very much. Thank you for making time to talk to us this evening. And I want to thank our audience as well for sticking with us. I see a lot of you stuck around, and I hope that you all found it very insightful. I want to again remind our audience that you can buy your copy of this book, the Afrikaans version of Timeless Principles or Ewige Beginsels. You can buy it at our online shop, ligenduisternis.co.za. You can even buy the ebook on Amazon. Just go on Amazon.com and you can just type in the name of the book and you'll be able to find it as in an ebook format. Or otherwise, if you want to maybe buy it as a present for somebody overseas or abroad, you can do the print-on-demand option, also available on Amazon. Thank you very much again, Yavor, and all the best. And we hope that this book will be just as big a success in South Africa with the desired effect, cause and effect. So hopefully this book will also have the right effect on our minds and our thinking. And we wish you all the best, and we pray for your work in Bulgaria. And we thank you for your valuable contribution in this book.
Thank you very much for your invitation again. I hope to see you face to face again.
Are you coming to South Africa? Are you planning to come to South Africa maybe?
Why not?
Yeah, we're trying to work on something. Maybe there will come an invitation. We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be great. Okay. Talk to you.
Thank you very much and have a blessed evening. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Bye-bye.